Abdul Kul Bazon Kafla Tat Fatana Ben Mahu Hadis Ashuki Inukul. Anuki Fian Aishu Shukalu Wakul Ashukalu. Not the Kunafikal. Anuki Ferragun Shukalu Wakaluka Ferragunshi. Anuki Wahid Kakalu Wakalukalu Wahid Man. Nuk Aikilu, Angie, Kama Ferragun Shukalu Wakama Fay. Nuk Aikilu Ahwayne Pudik Nuka Fazifikal. Kama Tabukama Fazi Kaluni Ami Dufikal. Anuki Kabaha Kalu Kalun Nuki. Kalu Yaku Nukeki, Kalu Bamu Nukami. Begin all prayers, thinkings, and deeds with who? Divine love and all. I am in the love of all, and all love is me. We are all in all. I am a part of all, and all is a part of me. I am one with all, and all is one with me. I can succeed as a part of all and fail as an individual. I can be all I wish and all as long as my wish is to stay in all. I am never alone. All is I am. All can and I can. All this I can.
Ooh, appreciate that, Brother Neb. Hey, welcome, family. This is the House of Who. This is the Holy Tablet class discussion. Tonight, I'm your teacher, Brother Chris Love. So I'd like to welcome all the family, all the brothers, all the sisters. It's good to be back. Good to see everybody that's in the building tonight. We're going to start off, I guess, pretty much where we left off, family, right? And before we go there, I think it was page 108 that we left, 104 is where we left off last time, right? But I came across something tonight that was very interesting in the Holy Tablets and some of the introductory pages of the Holy Tablets before it gets into the table of contents, right? Now, for all the listeners, most of us are familiar with the origins of the Holy Tablets. These are the Sumerian translated scrolls by the master teacher, Dr. Malachi York, right? He translated these tablets out of cuneiform, right? Cuneiform, as they call it, right? Which is really our ancient language that we call it Nahuatl, right? He translated it from that into English, as well as some of the ancient texts from what's called the Shahuf, which were ancient texts that contain where all the 7 major scriptures of religion came from. That's another whole conversation. This particular context is the Sumerian translation, like the Gilgamesh epics, the Enuma Elish, and all those ancient Sumerian writings that talked about beings coming down and setting this thing up that we call Earth, right? So I want to go into an introductory reading here. We're going to start at 104, but before we go there, there's a personal note from the receiver, right? Which is, Dr. York. He says, I call to accept this truth as bestowed upon me by the masters who got my pen. For of myself, I could not have done the works of it, right? That's one of the leading introductory lines for the preface of the Holy Tablets. And from that, I get that we know that our teacher was inspired by beings from afar, right? We know that. Just like we're inspired by our ancestors, they lived through us, they walked through us, right? Well, they gave him this inspiration to go forth and translate all of this work. And we got to understand, family, no other black man has translated the Sumerian tablets, right? No other black man, got to stop saying black, it's not black, Nubian, right? No other Nubian man has translated the Torah, the Quran, the Psalms, which are the Book of David, right? The Dead Sea, not only the Dead Sea Scrolls through his pamphlets, but also the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So this is a heightened sense of awareness from a world scholar. And he was just breaking that introductory down that it was the masters that guides his pen that inspired him to do this, right? He goes on to say that there were a host of great Nawabian or Nubian leaders such as Dus Ali, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Sheikh El-Hajj Dawood Faisal, Clarence Jarrett Smith, which they call Clarence 13X, who founded the Nation of Gods and the Earths of the 5 Percenters, Clifton E. Marsh, Noble Drew Ali, and Marcus Garvey. That's just to name a few. They contributed to the upliftment of the fallen, trodden over, and much abused Nubian Moors, which is really us. Many newsletters, books, and newspapers have been written, yet the conditions of the Nubians, which is the Nubians, have not changed. As the saying goes, Allah does not help a people until they help themselves. It's time for you to get up and do something for yourselves, right? So I thought that was inspirational because in the introductory of the Holy Tablets, Dr. York is inspiring us to do something. Us, not wait for anybody else to do it, but us to actually do something. And this is what gods do. Gods take action. Gods respond to things. I was talking to someone close to me earlier today, and I was saying the ability to respond is what they call responsibility. It's what makes us God. The mortals are people who look for other people to do things for them. but gods have to react, right, and act to make things happen. So I thought that was inspiring, you know what I'm saying, for like the introductory part of the Holy Tablets. So without further ado, last we left off, family, we were in the creation chapter, which is chapter 1 of the Holy Tablets, right? It's the Clag, which is Nawapi for the creation, right? So without further ado, I'm gonna start this thing off, family. And if anyone has any comments, any questions, anything they want to add, just come in with a hua. Just come in with that creative force. And, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna yield and let you add to what we're doing right now. All right. So without further ado, this is tablet 1019. All right. It says Adonai, Tammuz as our shepherd, and we have all that we need. And as you and the Anunnaki declare, I'll pause right there, family. We know that Adonai is where they mistranslate in English as Lord. Adonai, Lord. To us, it's a translation meaning master, right? Tammuz, we know who Tammuz is. Tammuz is one of our elders. He makes up one of the 24 elders. He was the incarnation of what we call, you would say, Horus, or what they call Jesus, so to speak, right? So go on here. It says, verily, we have given you all the abundance. So pray unto your sustainer and offer. Verily, your enemy shall be one cut off. His seed will be cut off after 6,000 years from the most holy day, right? So pause right there. This sounds familiar, right? Verily, your enemy shall be the one cut off. His seed will be cut off after 6,000 years. Now, we know that the Canaanites, based on the history and the teachings of our doctrine, right, which is right knowledge, right, the WAPO, that 6,000 years takes us back to canon, right, the biblical canon. We'll keep it biblical right now because, number one, I thought about this earlier today, family. Some of us kind of despise the Bible or the Biblios because of the mistranslation, but it's a tool. You ever wonder why the master teacher never stopped using the book after 35, 40 years? I was in class with him, and I thought we was done with the Bible. He said, why you didn't bring your Bible? Why you didn't bring your tool? I'm like, damn, I thought we was done with the Bible. No, it's just a tool. So going back to that tool, the 6,000 years takes us back to the Canaanites. They were like the newest kids on the block on the planet as far as the races of people, because we was always here, but they just got here. They only been here for 6,000 years, which is why most of your modern, ancient, European, Greek, Roman, so-called Phoenician, right, Hyksos, all of that stuff is under 6,000 years old because they just got here. It's almost like the little brothers, little sisters in the room, but they cause the most chaos. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the baby child be turning up more than the oldest child. That's what it's referring to, the 6,000 years from the most holy day. Then it says, he let us rest in the outer fields of green grass and leads us to quiet pools of fresh water. He gives us new strength, right? And you kind of feel that when it says green grass and leads us to quiet pools, it gives you that remnants of that Psalms prayer, the 23rd verse. You know what I'm saying? Still pastures, and still waters, right? Let me go on, family. He gives us new strength. He gives us in the right path as he has promised. Even if we go through the deepest fears of death, we will not be afraid because we know that you are with us. Your flail's rod and you was, which is that rod he was talking about, protects us from disagreeableness. It chastises. That rod that you see some of the Egyptian people or pharaohs buried, the reed and the rod when they cross their arms. Well, that rod is for rulership. It's a staff to be firm, to be disciplined. That reed is another purpose, right? Let's go on. All right. He says, you prepare a table for us where all of your enemies can see you welcome us, and an honored guest upon your ship, and fill our cups to the brim. We know that your goodness and love shall be with us all of our lives, and your house will be our house as long as we exist. So in essence, this is given a more intimate, a more poetical version of that Psalms 23rd prayer when it seeks to be, in a state of tranquility when entering that state of the Most High, that realm of the Most High. This is what I am getting from this, based on the inspiration of the family. All right. So we at page 104. This is tablet 11, the Firmaments. Right. I'm going to go ahead and go into this, family. If you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to come in with the hua. right? So lo, now that the selected 24, the Anunnaki Elohim, of which 12 were agreeable and 12 disagreeable, commanded the firmament, which is the asteroid belt, to be in the middle of us, or excuse me, be in the middle of this solar system, between Mumu, which is Mercury, Lahamu, which is Venus, Tiamat, Earth, and Lamu, Mars, and Kishar, Jupiter, Anshar, Saturn, Anu, Uranus, and E, Neptune. So let's pause right there. He's giving you the translations of the planets. All of the planets in our solar system were named after people. They were named after certain Anunnaki from that whole realm of what Anu had put in place. Is giving you some of these people's names right now. This Anshar, that was his father. Kishar was his mother. E was his son, which was Neptune, right? And Anu had Uranus named after him, right? And then you see some of the other Anunnaki or Elohim. Tiamat was called Earth. That was a female person. So Earth gets its semblance and reference or identity from this female perspective who was ruling it back in the day. So, with Lahamu, which is Venus, right? That was female, right? And looks like 3, right? The 2 sets of planets with water in the heavens above and the heavens below. 4, so that it would separate the water on the planet Earth, which was below, from the water on the other planets above and the clouds. So basically, he's drawing contrast to when it's breaking down Genesis, and he's talking about how the Elohim, these supreme beings, they separated the water on the planet from space, and then also water that were on other planets. So it's giving you a separation or recreation concept as they're coming through the solar system, and they're taking on planets, and they're having planets named after them. We had talked about this last time when some of those ancient people, ancient Anunnaki, our family members came through. Each one of them kind of adopted a planet. Like if you and your mate or you and your wife would go to a certain planet and you were the most advanced on that planet, those people would almost worship you like you gods. And they would even name the planet after you to show reference to. So this is what that's referring to right now, family. Right? Any questions? Any concerns right now? All right. So 5, from the water on the other planets above, from the water on the other planets above and the clouds. And the Anunnaki made an arch firmament, an asteroid belt in the sky as a necklace to be dawn, visible, which is above in the planet's atmospheres, right? And separated the 2 waters, one which was beneath the beaten out firmament, Mumu, which was Mercury, Lahamu, Venus, Tiamat, Earth, and Lamu, Mars. So it's letting you know the smaller planets on one side of the asteroid belt, which is these smaller planets that he's talking about, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Then it says 9, from the other, which was Kishar, Jupiter, Saturn, right, Uranus, and Neptune. And this happened. So he separated the larger planets from the smaller planets in our solar system based on an accident that happened that created that asteroid belt. So you put the asteroid belt right in the middle of Mars and Jupiter to kind of separate the small from the large, right? That's what that's referring to. 10, the Anunnaki named the firmament skies, and the dust period and the new day of a 7,000 years was over, and the 24 selected elders, one for each hour of one Earth day. All right, so this is deep right here, because he talked about earlier there being 24 elders, right? And going back to our tool, which is sometimes referred to as the Biblios or the Bible, you go into the book of Revelation, it speaks about these 24 elders, these elite beings that sit around the throne, right? So these 24, they scientists. 12 of them is disagreeable, which means they about that life. They will fight, they strap up, they will knock you out. And the other 12 are agreeable. They scientists. They're like the spiritual ones. They don't fight, all right? So these 12 were the ones that helped design this recreation of the solar system that he's talking about, when that asteroid belt separated the smaller planets from the larger planets, right? And he's letting you know that that period of time in which they done that event, it took them 7,000 years to do that, to separate the smaller from the larger planets based on the conditions of the solar system, based on the accident that happened even before that. So it took them 7,000 years to do that. This 7,000 years is referred to in Genesis as the 7 days of creation. Each day is really 7,000 years long, right? So it's also breaking down the 24 elders It says 1 for each hour of each Earth day. So, it's 24 hours in a day, right? The new time system that the Earth was set up on was, corresponding with the number of elders that helped design it. 24 scientists is 24 hours, right? There's no coincidence that it's 24 hours in a day based on the scientists. And that's what he's breaking down in this translation, right? So let's go on. 12. The Anunnaki sat in a circle and said amongst each other, the waters beneath the skies are to be brought together as one mass, as oceans, rivers, streams, and lakes. And let the dry land be seen. And this happened. The Anunnaki called out that Ki, the planet Earth, will be called Adama, dry brown ground, the land mass called Ki. Notice how it says Adama, right? The Earth will be called Adama, right? So 16. And the Ma'im called waters that were gathered together, they called the Yam or Yam, which is what we call seas, right? Who was the brother of Baal, right? Notice how they named certain things after certain people when they came here, right? Those people were usually assigned to that, right? In certain Native American cultures, they would say the god of this, the god of that, the god of wind. Each Anunnaki that came down here during this Reconstruction period, some of them had assignments, and they were assigned over the seas. They were assigned over the marine life. They were assigned over the flowers and the vegetation. They were assigned over keeping a regulation in the atmosphere so everybody could breathe. So thus, through interpretation, they were the gods of the air, the gods of the soil, the gods of the flowers, the gods of this. You kind of see how the things got watered down over time. And these were just scientists coming, restoring the earth. So each person became responsible for a certain task, right? So, let's see, 16, right? No, excuse me, 17. The Anunnaki said, in the name of El Elo, the appointed, who is due all. Let's scroll down, Brother Neb.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So, basically, this is a more in-depth conversation about Genesis chapter 1.
Absolutely. He's going in detail about it. He's giving you like all the scientific terminologies based on the cycles from the Sumerian translations. That's exactly what it is, bro. That's it. All right. So I'm gonna go through this page, family, and then I'm gonna ask for some volunteers. You know what it is. All right. So this is the creation, chapter 1, the holy tablets. All right. So 18, the only true sustainer of sustainers of all the boundless universes, the caring, the loving. When all things end, it is up to Anu, who is Aliyun El, alone is to be worshipped. And we ask Aliyun El for help alone. Aliyun El guides us to the right way. The ways of those 12 agreeable Anunnaki, not the way of the 12 disagreeable Anunnaki. Right? So pause right there. Notice he said toward the agreeable side. Wants us to lean toward the agreeable side, even though the disagreeable is necessary, right? But he wants us to lean toward the agreeable side, even though the disagreeable is necessary. Just want to keep that in mind. So 21, let's go through that again. The ways of those 12 agreeable Anunnaki, not the way of those 12 disagreeable Anunnaki, nor the ways of those who were 200 agreeable and went astray. That's talking about the 200 fallen angels, so to speak, or those 200 fallen Anunnaki, right? There were a couple of wars in the heaven. And if we go to the tool, which is Revelation 12:7, it speaks about the war in heaven against, Michael and his angels versus the dragon and his angels, and how they lost. The dragon, they lost. They got kicked out, right? That old serpent, right? That has a new serpent, which was his son, they got kicked out too. This is mentioned in the Quran, in El's Holy Quran, about the second or the third battle with, the old dragon or Shaitan's son. His name was Halal, later became known as Lucifer. When he fell down again, like his dad did, he had 200 angels with him. So that's referring to those 200 fallen. They got kicked out with him. All right. So, any questions right now, family? Any concerns? Any comments? All right.
I just wanted to ask you. You said disagreeable and agreeable. So why would the disagreeable be?
Balance. That's number one. Number two, it's environment. right? I thought about this too, family. Check this out. Not every planet has murder. Not every world that we go to has death. So if you eliminate murder and you eliminate death, it creates a different concept of reality. There's no need to be disagreeable. If there's no one opposing you with your life or your concepts, there's no need, no room for that. However, on the lower density planets like we live on, they about their life. So to come down here all agreeable, you would get ate up real quick if you didn't have some backup that was disagreeable. Fortunately for us, we got two opposing sides. We got the agreeable and the disagreeable. We just got a switch called will that we can flip back and forth. Some of the Elohim don't have that. Some of them niggas is just good. And then some of them niggas is just bad. So it's like, I think it's a balance, bro. But that's a good question. That's a good question. Yeah, no doubt. That's a good question. So let me go to 23, right? And the Anunnaki said amongst each other, the planet Earth should not spread buds growing. The planet Earth should now spread buds growing herbs with seeds in them in order to yield new seeds, right? And a fruit tree should grow with seeds in them. And the landmass, from the landmass, and this happened. So let me stop right there because he said something important right there. Notice how he said that the herbs and the buds and the fruit and the trees should have seeds in them. We ain't talking about Santos, genetically modifying the food, taking the seeds out, making seedless grapes, seedless watermelons, seedless this, seedless that. That's not real food, family. Real food or fruit and vegetables have seeds in them, right? This is what makes them potent, right? This is where our beings come here and take what they take, because some of them beings can't reproduce. They on worlds where they gotta clone their food. They gotta clone themselves. Well, down here, we still got seeds. Not only in the food, but the people, we can reproduce. So it's very important for us to start eating food with seeds in them, because that's natural food versus just synthesized clone food that they make it nowadays, right? So you see that right there. 25. And so the planet Earth did bring forth grass and herbs with seeds in themselves, and the great trees within itself. And the Anunnaki saw that things this way were agreeable. 27. The dust period and the new third day of 7,000 years was over, right? Pause. Notice how he's saying, the dust period and the third day of 7,000 years. So this is the third day of a 7,000 year situation. Each day to them is like 7,000 years to us. So by the time they got to the third day, 3 times 7, that's 21,000 years that they've been planning and reconstructing the earth and now planting seeds back in it. Because now we're talking about a planet after the Nibiru accident, after all these giant crashes took place and broke up these planets. Now they're reforming the planet, right? So now they're going through and cleaning up the planet, the environment, the air, and they're bringing seeds and planting fruit. So they're really giving you a situation where they're redeveloping, re-terraforming the planet right here. This is 105 of the Holy Tablets, right? Let's see here, 28, right? The 24 selected counselors of the original Elohim, who are called Anunnaki, said amongst each other, let the light exist in the skies in order to separate the daylight hours from the shadow hours. Daylight was called agreeable, 12 selected Sarafat, or what we call Seraphim, and the shadow hours was called disagreeable, and the 12 Garubat, right, or what we refer to as cherubim. You have your 24, 12 disagreeable and 12 agreeable. He keeps re-referencing that for a reason. Y'all seeing the balance, right? We got the good guys, but we got to have some guys that can do some fighting too in case the good guys get hemmed up. That's how I'm seeing this concept, family, right? So 31, right? So right now, I know I said I was going to read all this, family, but I'm going to seek a volunteer right now to help us read some of this information. So it's been a minute. Let's see what we're doing right now. How about Miss Monique? Would you care to read for us, Miss Monique?
Yes, sir. We're at 31.
We are at 31.
Let them be as signals of the seasons of days and years as time for this planet. 24 hours in a day, 24,000 years in an equinox. as illuminating light from the skies to shine light upon the planet Earth, and this happened. The Anunnaki caused the older and brighter light to be seen in the sky in order to overpower the daytime. The symbol of the agreeable was the star as a great surface of life, the sun, shine ever so brightly from the pure darkness, the very first state before the light, made things seen.
Pause right there, sis. Pause right there. Notice what she read earlier when she said the Anunnaki caused the older and brighter light to be seen in the sky in order to overpower the daytime, right? So when you look at that, and it says the older light, and it's something I kind of skipped over before years ago when I first started reading the tablets, right? When he says the brighter light, the older and the brighter light, we talked about this, I think, in the last couple of classes from the Holy Tablets. I think it takes sunlight about 8 to 9 minutes to hit the earth. So by the time we look at the sky, we seeing light, we seeing something that's 8 minutes old. We seeing the past of the sunlight, the older light. That's the brighter light, right? Because they fraction off the light once it hits the dome of the atmosphere of the planet. And the part that we see, we only see in 7 colors. Well, there's more than 7 colors, family. So they fraction off some of this light that was coming in and gave us the older light, which we're seeing 8 minutes old by the time it reaches our eyes on the planet Earth. All right. Thank you, sis. Please go ahead.
The younger light of lesser brightness has to be seen through the shadow hours. The symbol of the disagreeable was the crescent moon, which is ruled by the sun. They also made many outer suns and stars visible, and the Anunnaki made them appear in the skies in order to shed light on the planet Earth. This was to overpower the day and the shadow hours called night, and to separate the daylight from the shadow hours. The Anunnaki saw that things this way were agreeable. And the dusk period in the new 4th day of 7,000 years were over. And they said, and for everything there is a time. Everything that will happen in this new world will happen on time. And they set the 12 signs in the skies called the cosmic clock, or Uruj, given 12 periods broken into 4 seasons, bringing in the signs of the end of one age and the beginning of another.
Okay. Thank you, sis. Notice how when she was reading that and the master teacher was breaking down that these 24 were the one that rearranged everything and reseeded everything, and they were managing creating a new time system on the planet. So they created the current time system that we're living in right now with these 4 seasons, right? These 24 hours in a day, right? And the whole zodiac that we respond to right now based on our position in the solar system. The elders did this. These 12 scientists and these 12 other scientists, 12 disagreeable, 12 agreeable. But they were people that did this to set this thing in motion, right? It makes you think, right? When you looked at, I think Galileo was the one that kept looking at the replica of the solar system. And someone came across and said, hey, why you keep looking at that? He said, well, it's obvious that a man made this replica of the solar system. But if a man made this and I'm looking at it, what do you think about the grander scale of the real thing that had to be made by an intelligence? So even Galileo was bearing witness to the design that some people had to get together and make, talking about the solar system from back in the day, right? All right, so 41. Thus, everything that will happen in this new world will happen, all right? And let's say when Alien L wishes it to happen, right? So I'm gonna go through this side right here, and then I'm gonna call on another volunteer in a moment, family. So let's go into it. And keep in mind, every time that we're seeing for some of the newcomers or whatnot that we're reading Aliyun L is, that's really the Most High, right? So Aliyun L sets the time for birth and the time for death, the time for planting and the time for pulling up, the time for what's dead and a time for what is healed. The time for building and a time to tear down what was built, a time for joy and a time for sorrow, a time for mourning and a time for dancing and music, a time to make love and a time not to make love, a time to kiss and a time not to kiss, right? A time to find things and a time for losing, right? And I know we all know about losing things, right? And he's kind of summarizing the family that as we go through this thing called life, whatever happens to us, it's a balance. And I'm starting to realize for myself at my age that when things happen, it's really like a dance that we're doing with the universe. You know what I'm saying? You know, just right step, left step. You know, it's a rhythm that we got to dance to it. Sometimes it gets frustrating, it gets stressful, and downright out, the stuff hurts. But keep in mind, family, it's a dance. And I'm starting to recognize that for myself, that it's a dance, it's a rhythm that you got to learn to keep with and move with, right? He also goes in and says, a time to save and a time to throw away, a time to speak and a time to remain silent, right? Which is very important, right? Because I like to talk, but I'm also learning there's a time when I shouldn't, right? So 42, these are the laws on time. This is what they taught the Magi on time. You would adjust your conduct and even direct the course of your spirit according to hours and seasons of time. You should make a stream upon whose bank you would sit and watch its flowing. Yet the timeless in you is aware of life's timelessness and knows that yesterday is but today's memories and tomorrow is today's dreams. And that which sings and contemplates in you is still dwelling within the bounds of that first moment which scattered the stars into space. Who among you does not feel that his power to love is boundless? And yet who does, you gotta scroll up a little brother Nab, let me see that. Yep. Who among you does not feel that his power to love is boundless? And yet who does not feel that very love through boundlessness encompassed with the center of his being, and moving not from love, thought to love, nor roam love, deeds to other love deeds. And is not time, even as love is, undivided and spaceless. Ooh, that's fire. Let me go back and read that again, family. That's kind of fire. And moving not from love, thought to love, nor roam love deeds to other love deeds. All right. And is not time, even as love is, undivided and spaceless. But in your thoughts, you must measure time into seasons. Let each season encircle all of the other seasons, and let today embrace the past with remembrance and the future with longing. Meaning we should long for the future. We should be hoping for tomorrow. We should want tomorrow to be better than what today was. That's all. I've always had that in my spirit. As effed up as a day could get, family, trust me, I've had a few, right? As messed up as your day can get, there always should be like an inspiration that your tomorrow will be better. I think my grandmother used to tell me, she used to tell me, don't worry about what happened today, because if you wake up tomorrow, you're blessed. She used to tell me that, right? If you wake up tomorrow and you breathe it, you okay. Regardless of what you're going through, if you breathe in and you wake up tomorrow, that you're okay. You know, so that stuck with me, right? So, yeah, let me call in a volunteer. Do we have any volunteers that'll read on down from verse 43 on down to the end of 106?
I can read.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Sure, Manu. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please go ahead, sis.
The Anunnaki said amongst each other, let the waters breed abundantly all kinds of swimming creatures that are to live. And birds are to fly above the planet Earth in the open skies. The Anunnaki recreated Tanim, the dragon sea serpents, as sea dinosaurs. And all living spirits, amoebas, algae, and fungi that swim, which the waters bred from itself. And all the winged birds, pterodactyls, from themselves, and the Anunnaki saw that things this way were agreeable. The Anunnaki put their blessings on them all by saying, procreate and multiply and refill the waters in the seas, and the birds are to multiply in the planet Earth. The dusk period and the new fifth day of another 7,000 years was over.
So pause right there, sis. Pause right there. Thank you. Hold on 1 second. See, right here, that's the fifth day. Right, notice that he's going through these different cycles and he's letting you know, well, to us, this is day number 5. This is day number 4. This is day number 3. This is to us. to the people on Earth, yo, this is another 7,000 years. So this is like 35,000 years of work. 5 times 7, that's 35,000 years, right? So they still rebuilding the planet, and it's taking them thousands of years to do it. But they're not dying because they don't. These people don't die. They can live for what we consider forever, right? They don't die like we die. So they're going through the different situations where they're reseeding the earth, they're reseeding the water, and that causes things to grow from that and evolve over time into other things. All right. Thank you, sis. Please go ahead.
The Anunnaki said amongst each other, "Let the planet Earth bring forth living spirits from itself, non-speaking mammals and reptiles, also living on the planet Earth." And this happened.
Pause right there again, sis. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got to interrupt you again. Notice what she read right there. The master teacher's breaking it down. Non-speaking mammals and reptiles. So what does he mean? Apparently, there were reptiles and mammals that can speak. He's letting you know right there, non-speaking. Like, let us bring. So they brought forth the non-speaking mammals and reptiles. So in other places, there was some mammals and some reptiles that can talk that talk. Is what he's breaking down right here. All right, please go ahead, sis. Thank you.
The Anunnaki made to evolve all the living animals that appeared on the planet Earth bred from themselves. And non-speaking mammals bred from themselves, and all the creeping things upon the planet Earth bred from themselves. And the Anunnaki saw that things this way were agreeable.
Right. Thank you. So he's breaking down once again the whole evolutionary process after these Anunnaki, after these 24 elders start reseeding, rebuilding, bringing new life here. They were like reanimating the whole planet after that destruction happened, right? This is tablet 12, the new being, right? So lo, another being, right, which was to be thought into being and recreated was the humans, from who? The force of creative will. These humans were to thrive to become supreme beings again, right? So out the gate, he's letting you know we weren't just created to be slaves, family. He's letting you know right here, these beings, right? These humans. It's just that the reality check is not everybody down here walking the earth with us is a human. You can tell by their behavior. You can tell by their diet. You can tell how they war, how they murder, how they thirst, how they lust, how they rape, how they destroy, how they kill, how they change the truth. You can tell by their nature. Not everybody down here is a human. So everybody ain't rocking with the force of who or the creative will. They're not doing that. That's the reason why they're not doing that, because they're not from that, right? So these humans were to thrive to become supreme beings again, right? So we used to be that. If we can become it again, we used to be it at some point in time, right? Also, there was the behemoth, the animal man called Human or Who-Man, right? This is when we say we human beings, right? Initially, we're really referring to ourselves as humans, right? Not human. Man makes you mortal, right? Man takes you into what he's calling this beast man, this animal man. Human beings descended from the supreme being, to supreme being, to human being, to human, to man, to mammal, to animal, to beast. So he's giving you a hierarchy, human, right? And he's letting you know human beings descended from supreme to being. So they were going down, right? The man side is going down, even down to the beast. 2, the kingdom of the skies was called Malakut, and the blue planet was called Ardut, right? So he's giving you various languages. This in one in particular is Arabic, right? This Malakut is what we would refer to as the fourth plane, or quote unquote, the abode of the angels. Malakut, the Malaka, or the rulers, or those who rule. We're talking about these angelic beings that came down. And the blue planet was called Ardut. That's called Earth. This is the Arabic, right? 3, and the great kingdom of Tamaray, known as Egypt. Notice how he's telling you the real name of Egypt, which is Tamaray, or Tamaray, was originally called Kemet, after the constellation Kema, right? So when they say ancient Egypt was Kemet, y'all, yeah, it was called Kemet after Pleiades, or Pleiades' original name was Kema, right? One of the original homes inhabited by the Anunnaki, who were called Netiru, or Neteru by the Egyptians. So it's letting you know one of the places that we went to after we had the war, because we had to, we became refugees throughout the galaxies. One of the first places we went to was Pleiades, which is called Kima, right? And then later on, some of us came down to Earth and influenced the people of Earth, and they start calling one of those ancient kingdoms Kemet, right? Which became known as Egypt. But Egypt is not really, that's not our language. Egypt is, I think that's, what's that, Egyptos, that's Greek for burnt faces. We got to remember that when Europeans came in, they saw these kingdoms, they started renaming them. And they started renaming them based off who they thought they saw there. So that's not even the original name of it, but it's called Tamare or Kemet from Kima, which is Pleiades. Just making a note. Any questions, any comments right now, family? Good. All right. So the Anunnaki, who were called Neteru by the Egyptians when they could no longer live on Risk, because remember, Risk was attacked, right? The Anunnaki named it Nibruki, the earth place of Nibiru. So that's not Nubruki. Notice that Ki is really earth. So they're saying the earth place of Nibiru. And Nippur in Akkadian. It was ruled by Enlil before the procreation of Cadman and Nikeba, right? And this Cadman and this Nikeba is our version of what they refer to as Adam and Eve, right? This Cadman and this Nikeba was 49,000 to 50,000 years ago, right? They were supposed to be the rulers of the rest of the humans on the planet. They were royalty, right? And on the other side was the evil ones in the land called Arizak. They had a leader whose name as an Anunnaki is Gequin, legion of them, or Halal. So that's Halal right there. This Halal is who I was talking about earlier. He became known as Lucifer. This was the old devil's son, right? This was maybe the third war that's recorded that we know about thus far, right? That third war was the 200 fallen angels being kicked out of heaven. That was Halal, right? That dude became known as Lucifer. So his daddy was the devil, and he became Devil Jr., so to speak, right? 7, he was the father of the disagreeable. And this is talking about Halal. He was the father of the disagreeable Anunnaki species. Scroll down so I can see all of 107. All right, and keep in mind, family, this is giving us context about the recreation of the planet, and it's mentioning, characters from the Biblios, or the Bible perspective, but from the tablet perspective, he's giving you all the correct names in the language, right? Cadman, Nikeba, the whole nine. So, it's also saying that Halal was a father of a certain species, right? He is the head of the 200 fallen Nephilim, or Nephilites. And keep in mind, family, Nephilium, when you hear the word Nephilium, it's coming from the word Naphala in Hebrew, which means to fall down. These were the guys that fell down. They were the fallen angels, these 200. Or Yahwehan, called Luciferians. Nephi is called Lucifer or Satan, right? 8. Then there was Absbil, who was the teacher of the 200 fallen angels when on Arduk, which was Earth. How to be human is what he taught them. So pause right there. These fallen angels came down here and they didn't know anything about being human, even though they could incarnate to look human. So they had to teach themselves on how to be human so they can blend in and manipulate us, right? We meet these people a lot. You ever meet people who don't seem human or act completely human or normal or rational, right? That's coming from them. 9. And there was a Gadrul, the killer. He taught that death was agreeable, to kill is best. But this is what the elders taught of death. That's interesting. Number 8 right there, number 9, is interesting. It's telling us that one of the fallen angels, right, taught them how to kill, taught them how to murder, right? And he was breaking down right here, the master teacher translated, but this is what the elders taught of death. Because some of the elders, you got to think, y'all, some of the elders, 12 of them are disagreeable. So some of them was looking at us like, they wish they had the Thanos where they could just snap us out and end all of this to make it easier for the creation story. But then you got the 12 agreeable. It's like, nah, these are kids. This is our family. So you got two opposing, ideologies that somewhere along the lines seem to work together. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right? Any questions right now, family? Any concerns, any comments? Cool. All right, so 10. And the Phenomenal, the teacher of these, he taught how to trick human beings into sin. Right? So it's giving you all these teachers that the 200 fallen angels came down with and how they, infiltrated humanity and started deceiving us and start controlling us and start manipulating us. Because if we already had kingdoms and stuff before they came, they had to kind of assimilate into the game and hustle their way up to the top, which is what they did initially. All right, 11. And how to disobey Hua, right? And his wisdom. And Kasidia, the teacher of sorcery. These were the beings from a planet in Procyon or Procyon called Nirvana who came to Arduk. Now keep in mind at 13, family, he's talking about Procyon called Nirvana. These are the Hindus. This is where the Hindus come from. The Hindus even have a terminology for what we call heaven, and they call it Nirvana. Nirvana is actually a planet that they come from in Procyon. So it's giving you reference to each type of 200 fallen angels that came down with Halal. They had these expertise. Some were sorcerers, some were killers, some were manipulators, and he's giving you the reference to all of that, all right? So 14, the blue planet in the form of giants called Anakims. And these Anakims are mentioned in the Old Testament. We refer to them as Anakites. But these were some of the giants back in the Old Testament. When they first started coming down, they had different ways that they incarnated. Some of them incarnated as giants, which is where we get a lot of folklore from, right? 17, right? Oh, let me go back. 15. And their ruler and deity was a Hindu. They lived as Emims and dwelt in Arduk. We, the Anunnaki, came to Eridu from Malakut and Mu, which are chariots of light by way of Nibiru. Now let me unpack that, family. It says we, the Anunnaki, came to Eridu, that's another name for Earth, from Malakut, quote unquote heaven, the fourth plane, the abode of the Malaka, or the angels, in Mu, which is a city that we set up, which are the chariots of light, which is the ships or the vehicles that we drive to get here, by way of Nibiru, which is that ship that we drove to get here. He gave you the name of it, make and model. He did right there, Nibiru. 18, which has 18 shams or ships having 50 passengers on each ship. So he's letting you know they got ships inside of ships, and it's real like that. 19, the crystal city or mothership is made of amber and crystal, and 900 Anunnaki in all. So we're letting you know every time we talk about the crystal city, it's 900 people that's up in there doing their thing, right? Right now we're at 107. This is the creation. This is El Astaclat, chapter 1 of the Holy Tablets. And looks like we've come up on tablet 13, the fashioning of Cadman. All right. Any questions right now, family? Any concerns? Any comments?
Yeah, what was interesting to me when you go back to verse 11 that you just read, because it was breaking down, he used the word hua right there. So, to check that out again, because he's breaking down how he was taught people how to go against hua.
Yeah, absolutely. He was, but if in going into that even further, though, Brother Nail, there are people out there that can also teach us or influence us to go against our true self, our higher self, our better judgment. You know what I'm saying? Our own true nature. There are individuals out there that are that crafty because them niggas come from that bloodline. They got it in them. You would bring somebody home to grandma, and grandma will be able to size up that girl, or if you bring a dude home, she size up your wannabe boyfriend like he ain't right. Well, grandma, you don't even know him. He ain't right. She ain't right. It's a discernment, right? Because certain elders can discern that. We used to be able to see that in individuals, especially when we had the barytheric gland, when we had that gland that allowed us to have the four higher senses, the psychometry, the intuition, the clairvoyancy, and the telepathy, right? We would be able to size each other up. So going back to Malakut, there are certain places that you go to where everybody's telepathic. And if everybody's telepathic, you can't have a foul thought in your head without everybody like, dude, girl, what is you doing? What are you thinking? So there's certain places that you cannot go to if you have disagreeable thoughts, which is why some of these disagreeables, they get so pissed off once they get removed from certain planes because they can never go back. until they change their mentality. That's pretty much why a lot of us are down here. This is school for some of us, but for some of us, this is detention. So it kind of makes you think these beings are real, and some of these traits came through us because they start mixing in with us and raping us over periods of time. So we have the same disagreeable traits that we're reading about, family. And that's what's so interesting about it. All right, so right now we got 10 in the room right now. Yeah, let's keep it going. Let's keep it balanced. Let's see. Sister Timbia, would you do us the honor in reading the page for us from the Holy Tablet, Sister Timbia?
Lo, for those beings who are fashioned by the command to the Most High anew, seek knowledge even unto the grave. If you but know what is good for you, I speak to you, you must take this knowledge with a full understanding. Number 2, listen to me, O beings of the Adama, Anu, Aliyun El, most glorified and exalted, sent the Anunnaki from the 4 corners of the planet Earth to fetch soil for the flesh of your father, who was called Adam. For he was an earthling, and Zakar, one who remembers, for he is to remember.
Let me say something. Let me say something right here. Now, let me come in, because he said something. He said something wild. And when I first read this when I was younger, I'm like, Anunnaki from the 4 corners of the planet Earth to fetch soil for the flesh of your father, who was called Adam. Remember, that soil is people, right? Because this Adam had parents, right? He had a mom and a dad, Atum and Lilith. They were from the Watusi tribe. So when they're saying that soil, right, it made me think, not just the dirt. He's talking about the people, the Adam. What he said earlier, the soil, the earth, the Adam, right? I'm going to read on here a little bit more, sis, and thank you for reading that short paragraph. I really appreciate that. I'm going to call on you again, Sister Timbia, just to make sure you know, all right? So, right now, this is 3. Yet, his name is Cadman, to be fashioned at the 4 rivers. These wise Anunnaki signed his word. Gibrael Zadok, Murdoch Zadok, Israfel Zadok, Israel Zadok. 8, Anu, Aliyun El, most glorified and exalted. Then order the Alahum to bathe the soul of Cadman. You would know the secrets of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? Which is a very powerful statement. Let me go back. You should know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? So the secret of death is living your life. Makes you think about it, or not. I'm just saying, to me, it makes me think about it. Like, I always thought about, we all think about the older we get, how will we expire? How will we transition as we see so much death from our loved ones and our friends and our family, just innocent people, that we just see, visually in public, these people passing away. Some of these kids are passing away and they don't even get to see their 20s or their 30s or their 40s, and none of that. They get killed like it's nothing. So it kind of makes me think, man, life is really precious and sacred. I really got to live this thing, right? And as we live it to the fullest, right, we find out what the secret of death is. That's what I'm pulling from this meaning, from that phrase right there in the Holy Tablet. So, 9. Then order the Alahum to bathe the soul of Cadman. You should know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death upon your heart, wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and Yam and the sea are one, right? Which is true. The rivers leading to the seas. All the water is really connected. If you think about how they said we got 7 seas, how do we have 7 seas if the water is touching? It's all one water. You follow what I'm saying? So it's like they divide certain things in our concepts of reality. But if you look at it from a grander scale, you'll really see that it's all connected, right? In the depth of your hopes and your desires lie your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is laid upon him in honor. Right? So it's an honor to be afraid of death, family, because that means you have a tribute to life. Right? It's the people that I don't want to be around who say, I'm not afraid to die. Well, guess what, Negro? I am. I like living. I'm not welcome in death. I'm really welcome in life. And it's a couple of people that taught me, like, I was on a rant a few weeks ago. Like, I'll die for this, and that person was like, why don't you live for it? So it's kind of changing my whole concept of, all this death that we're seeing and how we can transmute it into something positive. Let's go ahead and live for this and get this thing done. That's what my concept is. So right now, any questions, any concerns? Any tidbits, any disagreements, any insults, family? I'm taking it all. All right, we got nothing? All right, let's scroll down a little bit further, Brother Deb. Okay, stop right there okay, all right, so let me read all of that, right? Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling, that he should wear the mark of the king? Yet he be not more mindful of his trembling. For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? That's fire. I write songs, family. That's fire, right? So, and what is to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek anew unencumbered. Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. When Tiamat the planet Earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance, which he created 1,000 years before his body, in the sea of glory which proceeded from himself, called Cathar. He commanded it to illuminate his yet lifeless form. The soul hesitated, for it was unwilling to enter the flesh. But Anu, Aliyun El, most glorified and exalted, commanded, you must animate Cadman, even against your will. And as the punishment of your disobedience, you shall one day be separated from him also against your will. Talking about death. Right here, that parable always stuck with me, of how our souls didn't want to come into our bodies. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, yo, you gonna do it. It's against your will, but you gonna do it. And because you didn't want to do it, which is kind of like disobeying the commandment of the Most High, that soul wasn't too happy to go into this small physical body, right? This gallon of water didn't want to go into an 8-ounce glass, so to speak, right? And because of that, it's the reverse. Now we're afraid to leave. Now our souls are afraid to leave the body, right? So we got to be careful of attachments, is what this is breaking down, family, right? So, 18, you shall one day be separated from him also against your will. This is speaking of human beings dying. And because his soul refused to come into the small shell to be imprisoned here, Anu, Aliyun El, most glorified and exalted, condemned him and said, now this same soul will wish one day not to leave him. Let's scroll down, Brother Ned. When the Anunnaki of death comes, we also know that as the angel of death, so to speak, saying through the religious concept of it. All right. So let me go ahead and call upon a reader right now. Let's see. All right. Brother Musa. I'm calling on Brother Musa to read a few paragraphs, man. Who are family?
Yeah.
Are you driving?
No, I just stopped, man. Right when I stopped, I was like, I'm gonna read. You called my name. Right when
I heard you, man. Go ahead. No problem. Take it from that top of that page there. 23.
The Anunnaki of death stood by, witnessing all of these things with tears in his eyes. Anu, Ayon, the most glorified and exalted, told Israel, son of Anu, also spelled Yid, depart, for I have made you Anunnaki of death. I have placed the taking of the soul of Cadmus and his seed, the Adamites, into your power. And these words Israel began to weep, saying, amongst you, children of God, there will be leaders who will doubted hate this account. I knew who is the Most High. Rejoin. I shall send so many complaints and diseases upon human beings that they shall not hate, and their deeds they shall be heard cause of grief to you. This means
pause right there. Let me say something right here, bro. Based on what you just read down to 29, I want y'all to really look at what he just read, what Brother Musa just read in these holy tablets, right? This is the angel Yisrael Zadok. His father, the Most High, appointed him. You're going to go take mortal souls when they make that transition. You'll be responsible for taking that soul when that soul leaves that body back to the realms. And he cried out, he's like, yo, I don't want to do that. They're going to hate me for that. I'm coming to get their souls. The Most High said, I'm going to send so many diseases. I'm going to balance this thing out. Because, the soul wasn't supposed to be in the body indefinitely anyway. The soul didn't even want to get in the body in the first place. The Most High was there witnessing that when that happened, right? But if you read that from reverse or from behind, right, you'll kind of think, well, wow, he's sending all these plagues, these diseases down here, right? And it's like, yo, to balance out, because the soul don't really want to be here anyway. It's just that this attachment to this body has kind of psychologically convinced us or fooled us that this is where it's at, and it's not. Please continue.
This means the human beings will be so preoccupied in the pleasure of this world that they shall not even notice death. It is said that the Anunnaki of death has a seat in the skies. Anu, Elyon, El, most glorified and exalted, created it from light. One of his 2 feet is on the bridge of hell, and the other is on the seat of the enclosed garden. It is said of his magnitude that where the water of the seas and rivers poured on his head, not a drop would fall on the planet Earth. It is said that if Anu, Elyon, El, most glorified and exalted, put all the world near the Anunnaki of death, it would be like a table placed before a human being, so that he might eat when he likes of it. So the Anunnaki Elohim of death turned the world of creatures about as a human being turns a coin. As for the knowledge of the end of terms, when the transcript of death and illness for the slave comes to the Elohim of death, he says, my Creator, when shall I take the Ruach, the soul of the slave? In what form shall I lift it? El, may he be exalted, says, O Elohim of death, this is the knowledge of the unseen. None have knowledge of it except me, but I shall inform you of the arrival of this time and make signs for you that you will overstand. The Anunnaki, who is in charge of their breath and deeds, will come to you and say, the breath of so-and-so is finished. The one who is in charge of his provisions and deeds will say, his provisions are finished and his deeds are well. If he is among the happy, his scroll carried by the Anunnaki, Elohim of death, will have on it the name with a line of gold light around it. If he is among the wretched, you will see around it a red line. The knowledge that is not complete for the Anunnaki, Elohim of death, until a leaf falls on his from the tree which is below the throne, and the name of the one about to.
And that's something unique. I'm going to interrupt you right here, Brother Musa. It speaks about that tree or that leaf falling, right? That leaf falls from the tree is below the throne. We already know about the tree of life, you know what I'm saying? And your name being written in the book of life, right? So it's symbolic. It's breaking that down in not just a symbolic term, but it's giving you reference to the culture of the Anunnaki and how they were assigned certain tasks with humanity. when we talked about earlier how certain Anunnaki were assigned over the air, over the water, over the animals, over the fish, over the sea, the vegetation. One of them got assigned to carry or to escort the souls of the humans to the next abode. And he was like, man, how would I know when to take the soul? He was like, I'm going to let you know. Only I know that. And I'm going to let you know when it gets near that time, because this Anunnaki is going to come to you about the deeds of that person. This one's going to come about the breath of that person. They're going to inform you, yo, man, we done shut them down. We done been told to shut her down. You know what I'm saying? It's time for you to go take the soul. This is a very real situation. It sounds mystical to us because we look at it in terms of a 3D reality. But these were the same beings that set up the soul entering, the Most High set up the soul entering into the physical body. Right? All right. Please go ahead, brother. Please read.
About to die is written on the leaf. Then the Anunnaki of death takes his Naf's spirit, Marduk, will descend with a scroll to the Anunnaki, Elohim of death, from Anu, Elyon, Elyon, El, the most glorified and exalted. And on it is written the name of the one whose Naf spirit he has commanded to be taken, the place in which the Nafs is to be taken, and the cause of it being taken. 2 drops will fall from under the throne on the name of its owner. One is pink and the other green. If a pink drop falls on the name, he knows that he is wretched and malevolent. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool, man. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Malevolent. No problem.
If a green drops on the name, he knows that he is happy and benevolent. And this is what he taught of benevolence and malevolence.
Right. And let me pause you right there, brother. That benevolence, that's that agreeable nature. To be benevolent is to be agreeable, to be compassionate, to be concerned. And you have that spirit, that nature. To be malevolent, like you got me doing it. To be malevolent is basically you being disagreeable. You tearing the club up, you smacking your gal around, you stomping on everybody. It's your nature. And we know people like this every day. Some people it's easy to get along with them. And some people sometimes a lot of times it's not. Right? So it's giving you 2 distinct natures, right? Please go ahead, brother. Thank you.
Okay. Of the benevolent, that is the agreeable good ones. In you I can speak, but not of malevolence. Disagreeable, the evil ones. For what is evil but good? Tortured by its own hunger and thirst.
Let's pause up right there. Pause up right there. For every villain in the movie that we watch, if you really watch the villain, some of those villains have a good character to their nature. It's just that their perception of it, they're thirsting for something, or they're hurting in a certain way. They're hungering for something. You know, the same thing with that Thanos character. Like, he wanted to kind of stop all the suffering. So he's like, yo, if I kill half the people in the universe, it'll stop all the suffering. It'll be enough food for everybody, right? And we think about that as insane, but that was his thirst. So that exists in every human being that vibrates on that benevolence. There's something that they're forever thirsting for. It's like an inner misery, and they got to share it with everybody else. That negative misery that they create amongst themselves, in themselves, that they project outwardly, and it spreads like a cancer. All it takes is somebody in a room that's disagreeable to kind of fuck up the whole situation. You know, my mom used to say, there's black people and then there's niggas. All it takes is one nigga to fuck up everything that we doing as black people, right? So I get that concept. That's where this nature comes from, right? Okay, I'm gonna read on a little bit further, brother, if you don't mind. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Let's see. I think you stopped off at of the benevolence. Okay, where would you stop off? Okay, thirst. I got you. So verily, right? Verily, when good is hungry, it seeks food, even in dark caves. And when it thirsts, it drinks even of dead waters. So it's symbolically letting you know when a person is thirsty and they really thirsty, they'll even drink something that's poisonous, right? When they're hungry and they're hungry, they'll eat almost anything. They'll seek food even in dark caves. Even when it thirsts, it drinks even of dead waters. You are benevolent when you are one with yourself. Yet, when you are not one with yourself, you are not benevolent. For a divided house is not a den of thieves. It is only a divided house. So not everybody that we think is bad is bad. There may be something inside of them that's making them thirst, but there's a difference between that and evil, right? Yet, when you are not one with yourself, you are not benevolent. For a divided house is not a den of thieves. It is only a divided house. And a ship without rudders may wander aimlessly amongst perilous isles, yet sink not to the bottom. You are benevolent when you strive to give to yourself, right? Scroll down a little bit further, Brother Nab. Let me see if there's something underneath that. Yep, right there. All right. Yet you are not benevolent when you seek to gain for yourself. For when you strive for gain, you are but a root that clings to the planet Earth and sucks at her. The fruit cannot say to the root, be like me, ripe and full, every giving of your abundance. For the fruit giving is a need, a receiving is a need to the root, right? So that's letting me know everybody has their frequency and their purpose and their gifts and how they contribute. You know, some people might have a more, firm nature. Some might have a more agreeable, more passive nature, right? It goes back to those 12 agreeable, those 12 disagreeable. They disagreeable, they're agreeable, but they have a tendency to work together to make things work. So it's not saying that the disagreeables and the agreeables can't work together, right? Is it if there's an objective, right? Any questions right now, family? We're covering some good stuff right now. I want to get some context and some discussions going on right now. What do y'all think about this benevolent and this benevolent nature? And can you kind of attest to some of the things that you see in people around you daily or even yourself, right? Let's get some context. Let's talk about it. Where you at, family?
Well, I just want to add to the benevolent. It kind of puts me in mind with the book of the wisdom of Tahuti. It's being that one is one extreme of the other, and the in between is kind of like it's just a swing. What do you call it? A swinging pendulum. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean,
I look at that with that sacred wisdom of Tahuti. Man, I look at that as polarity, and this is something I was talking about earlier, Brother Musa. It's a dance, right? It's a real dance. Like when you get hit with something great, you get hit with something good. It's not that you should think about something bad about to happen. You should just prepare the mind for the balance and the dance. You know what I'm saying? Because haters are out there, and they exist on all forms, not just physical, but they spiritual haters too, right? And these beings, they sit back and they look at you live your life, and some of them are loving it, and some of them are like at a pep rally on the fourth dimension, and they cheering us on. They throwing us some energy. They throwing us whatever they can throw us. They throwing us guides. They're not letting us hang out to dry at our last minute when you think something is not going to happen, or a bill's not going to get paid, or somebody's going to get sick and they're not going to make it. It'll be a total shift around in some cases, right? On another situation, right, on the disagreeable side of it, when you're in a disagreeable situation, right, you have to understand that there's going to be balance to balance out that equation, right? What the old people used to say, it's dark now, but it's sunrise in the morning, light come up in the morning, the next day. So it kind of gives you a mental concept to balance out whatever state that you're vibrating on or whatever environment that you're in. That's what I'm really pulling from this family. It's a balance. It's a dance that we gotta master, right? A lot of people right now are not mastering this right now because it's so easy to vibrate on the disagreeable. That's why gossip and fear, they push it the most because people eat it the most. They only gonna push what you eat and buy the most of. If you buy more fear, if you buy more hate, if you buy more lust, if you buy more whatever, they gonna push that, especially to our people, because we have a soul. So we vibrate a lot higher than most of the beings that are down here, which is why they target so much negative stuff toward Black people. From the food to the movies to the imagery, a lot of this stuff is sent to destroy our God complexes within ourselves, right? Any questions, comments?
Well, yeah, when you had that 180 and 180, that 180 degrees of agreeable, 180 degrees of disagreeable, is basically like, okay, in the middle, when you're saying polarity, that would be like, okay, you put in one side to one side this way and the other one side that way, but you got a middle point. But what we got to understand is that you got to move that to another like 1% or with that 180, that 181, so you can control all the disagreeableness or benevolence. So you can have total control of that. Now you're in control of yourself instead of you got to balance like a tug of war. When you at the 180 and 180, it's like a tug of war. You got to move a percentage so you can have control of that disagreeable side, that benevolent nature.
Right, and that control is easy to control because it's a balance. If you guys remember when y'all was kids and y'all would walk on a beam or something like that, going home from school or whatever, and you would have your arm stretched out to keep your balance, the right arm moving down, the left arm moving up, and you would kind of walk across the beam to keep your balance. Well, that's what he's talking about, that 180 disagreeable nature versus that 180 agreeable nature. It's like right hand, left hand. Right? That left hand is that love hand. It's closest to your heart. That's the emotional side. That right hand, that's your hand, is usually your strongest because of the tilt of the planet and what happened and how we in tune with the planet. So most people are right-handed because the planet is lifted or tilted 23 and a third degree to the right on its axis. So most of us are in tune with that magnetic polarity. So most of us have a strength on the right side of our bodies. Originally, we had both sides because we were balanced, we were ambidextrous. But that's what he's talking about, that 180 positive, that 180 negative. That's a balance that we got to control. It's like your chest is the light switch and your mind is the finger that controls the flick. You know what I'm saying? Up for good, down for bad. You control when you want to release that negativity. You control when you want to appear or come across as agreeable and be agreeable, right? You control that. I'll go through life all the time, and I'm pretty sure some of us have bumped into people and you try to give advice where advice is needed, you know what I'm saying? Because you see something bad about to happen, like, yo, I don't think you should do that because, yo, this person did that and they ended up like that. And that person say, man, you not my mama, you not my daddy, you don't tell me what to do. This is the way I was, this is the way I'm made, this is what I do, right? That's that disagreeable nature. And usually the best thing for you to do is after you try to advise someone like that and they ensure you that you can't change them. If they say that one time to me, man, you're not gonna change what I feel, bro. Cool, you right, I'm not, I'm good, go right ahead, knock yourself out. Sometimes you gotta be willing to pull back that compassionate side and balance it out with that disagreeable side. And that disagreeable side is gonna let you know you can't always cast your pearls to swine back to back to back. Sometimes, family, enough is enough. You got to pull back your real estate. You got to pull back your investment in certain individuals, in certain people, in certain habits, in certain ways of thinking, in certain foods, in certain everything to balance out your equation. That's what I'm getting from this, right? All right, so where we at, family? Any questions?
I had a question about the you are benevolent when you strive to give to yourself, or maybe if you can just expound more on it, just to make sure. I feel like I have an understanding, but maybe you can provide clarity. So the way I'm reading it is you are good when you strive to give to yourself, or you are well-meaning when you strive to give to yourself. And then
you are benevolent when you strive to give to yourself. That's very ironic that you would bring that up, because a friend of mine said that to me. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with making sure that you're okay. And what I'm starting to notice is that is very true. There's nothing wrong with giving to yourself, because, you know, when you're on the plane and they tell you, yo, if the plane start going down and these masks come out, don't put one on your baby first. Put one on your face first so you can breathe, and then put the other one on your baby, right? Because that law of self-preservation has to be there. So that's what I'm getting from that. Without the guilt, without the shame, because, you know, we do for other people so much as a family, right? Or just as individuals. And there's certain people out there, they'll run your well dry if you keep letting them. They'll keep coming back and asking for more and more and more and more. And then it's like, yo, hold up, let me sit still for a minute, you know? So that's what I'm getting from that, you know? You are benevolent, you know, when you give of yourself, but not in a selfish way. Not in a selfish way at all. Like, if I'm giving myself the time to read, to meditate, to pray, and to exercise proper diet, there's nothing selfish with that, family. Who? Go ahead.
Yeah, kind of like training yourself before you become a lifeguard. Learn how to swim, build yourself up, become a better helper.
That's it. That's it, bro. That's it. That's exactly it. Because if you're not a good swimmer, you shouldn't be trying to save nobody else in the water. You feel me? That's exactly what that is. Right? That's a very good question, sis. You have another question or comment? Because that was good.
Yeah, and yet you are not malevolent. When we kept reading it, I kept skipping over. I think some of us may have just skipped over not, but it actually seemed like it's saying you are not evil, or you're not evil or malicious when you seek to gain for yourself. And I think that comes across sometimes when we seek to gain for ourselves, it comes across as a negative thing often. So I was just trying to make sure I was reading that correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're reading that correctly. Yep. It's not a negative thing, especially if you're trying to heal yourself or improve yourself. Like self-improvement, I think a lot of that has been, in this culture, we've been distracted from self-improvement. We're looking for self-verification. We want to be validated, right? Without improving ourselves, right? It's almost like celebrities now, they're famous, but they're not famous for being excellent people. They're famous by something that we create in that fame agenda. We might like a certain thing that they did or they said or clothes they wore, but it's not anything that's deserving of that status. Excellence is deserving of something to be notarized from. When I look at like certain teachers, right, from Elijah Muhammad to Dr. Francis Kressling to Dr. Malachi York and so forth. When I look at these teachers and the body of work they put out, it comes a time when you think, how do they have the time to do this, right? They had to go off and write and be by themselves and kind of push the people away to get the work done, right? When I was writing, I've done songs in the studio before. There'll be times where we go to the studio for 12, 16 hours and just be in a room to write the song, to get it right. We had to sacrifice time with other people. So that's exactly what I'm getting from that. You don't have to feel like you're evil because you need to take time off to work on yourself, right? I think we had talked about that too, family, a few weeks ago about the Tobe. That's one of the general practices in the Tobe is to better yourself, commit yourself to something greater, something higher, right? On a personal level, sometimes you got to sit down, family, and you got to meditate, you got to go away, you got to restructure, you got to reroute, and you got to solidify what you're really about to slow yourself down. Go ahead, bro.
And also to add on to that, it's like you're not malevolent if you're out there doing, trying to gain for yourself. That's just your natural nature. I mean, how do you came here by yourself. How you got to the egg, first. It was always like that. That's your natural nature. That does not make you being natural does not make you evil either. When you do benevolent things, you're actually extending your availability or yourself to others. Cool.
Good one, sis. Good one, bro. Yes. Anybody else? Comments?
Yeah, basically, y'all kind of touched on what I was about to say. Basically, when you looking to improve yourself, your health, your mind, your spirituality, your studies, and you putting all that together, as you touch your affirmations, the way you eating, when you trying to move towards bettering yourself. That's basically what it's going to, like all y'all saying, is basically talking about you trying to improve yourself, to be a better you.
Yes, so real. Always remember, family, the biggest and baddest monster, the first monster that we always fight is ourselves. Once we get past that monster, all the rest of them seem really, really small. Because what I'm starting to realize, the monsters that I see in other people are just identities that I confirm within myself. I can identify with that and I see it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you really can't. This is the funny thing about it. When people say, oh, we hate this, so we hate that. There's an attribute of admiration hidden under that hate in order for the hate to be triggered. And it works both ways. And like what he was saying, life and death is really one of the same. That love and hate is a very thin line in that, And I think going back to being in tune with yourself, right, is starting to touch upon that inner love for yourself. And then you can share that with other people. Because, you know, grandmama always said, if you don't love yourself, you really can't facilitate and love nobody else if you don't have love for self first. So if you take care of yourself first, then that means you have the capacity to facilitate and take care of other people, your children, your family, your friends, your tribe, your nation, and all of that in between. But that's exactly what it's hitting on. That's a very good point just to bring out, especially, brother, to put that on there like that, right? Any other comments on this, family? Nice. All right, nice. So where we leave off at, right? We were at, she said, yet you are not benevolent when you seek to gain for yourself. For when you strive for gain, you are but a root that clings to the planet Earth and sucks at her. The fruit cannot say to the root, be like me, ripe and full, ever given of your abundance. Let me pause right there. That's another concept, right? There's some of us that are fruit and some of us that are roots. We're going to pull from different places. The fruit is pulling really from the root. The root is pulling from the earth. So for the fruit to look better, to have more, to look more abundant, more colorful, we don't really see the root. The root is in the dirt. We ain't trying to get down that low. We seeing the product of what the root is pulling for somebody else. So when I look at very successful, wealthy people, right, and I see them stunt, I see them shine, I know for a fact that I got some friends that's wealthy, right? I know for a fact that they're not doing that as themselves. They didn't get there by themselves. Everyone that's wealthy has a connection plug or somebody to help them get that money. But when they shine and you just see them, you just see their clothes and their Gucci and all that stuff. You don't really see everyone who partook in helping them get there. Prime example, a lot of our celebrity athletes, right? We see them shining, but what I like to see is when you see an athlete and they let their parents shine harder than they do. Because it was mom and dad going to all them games most of the time. It wasn't, them girls. It wasn't the chill. It wasn't all of that. It was mom and dad going to them games. Most of the time, mom, to be telling you the truth, because dad be working. So when you see a person do that, they give reference to what made them. They give a greatness on reference to what made them. That's when I'm really looking at an individual, like, oh, that person love themselves, because they ain't got to outshine where they really came from. That's just my philosophy, my concept, family. Who on that? But yeah, any other comments on that one? Because I'm gonna go ahead and read on here, family, if not. All right. So it says, you are benevolent when you are fully awake in your speech, yet you are not benevolent when you sleep while your tongue staggers without purpose. So it's like, you're not evil, right? If you're a sleepy person and your tongue is staggering and you don't know your purpose, it just means you have to get those things in order, right? So a lot of us think, I done already did all this stuff, man. Ain't no way I'm gonna be able to do such and such, right? You mentally and psychologically condemn yourself. Don't make yourself evil. We all do things that are not agreeable because we down here and we still learning who and what we are. But it doesn't mean that you should totally condemn yourself, because that can initiate mental, emotional depression. And you put yourself at a certain frequency, and that's when the jinns and the demons start coming in and suggesting things to you because you done lowered your vibration on that frequency. So, but pretty much you don't went into the room with them, so now they can talk with you. You went into a lower vibrational room because of that depression or that anxiety, or you doubting yourself, or you clowning on yourself mentally. I've done such and such, such and such. I can never get back to this. Man, I'm telling y'all right now, family, squash all that madness. He's telling you right now, that doesn't mean that you're malevolent, right? Just because you can't get your purpose or you staggering with your tongue or whatever, doesn't make you malevolent. Let me go on, right? And even stumbling speech may strengthen a weak tongue. You are good when you walk to your goal firmly and with bold steps. It says you are good when you walk to your goal firmly with your bold steps. Yet you are benevolent when you go thither limping. Even those who limp go not backward. So it's like letting you know, if you go into your goal and you bullshit, you're doing yourself a greater evil. If you're saying something to somebody and you're not true with it, you're doing yourself a greater evil. If you're not being honest and compassionate about how you're moving, and you say you're compassionate, and you're doing an evil to yourself, it goes back to being true to thyself or being in tune with yourself, right? All right, so let's move forward. It says, but you who are strong and swift, see that you do not limp before the lame, deeming it kindness. You are benevolent in countless ways. You are to benevolent, okay, and you are to benevolent when you are not benevolent. So that's pretty much a logical explanation. Pretty much, it's like when you're not being kind, when you're not BSing yourself, when you're being real with yourself, when you're being real with others, you're on that frequency of benevolence, right? And when you're not, you're benevolent, right? So you are only loitering and sluggard pity that the stages cannot teach swiftness to the turtle. All right, so let me read that over. You are only loitering and sluggard pity that the stages cannot teach swiftness to a turtle. In your longing for your giant self lies your goodness. That's powerful, right? Because some of us don't see ourselves bigger than what we are right now. And that's a mistake. Because I wake up every day thinking, oh man, I'm gonna be a bigger God today than I was yesterday. I feel good about the next day. And that's what he was talking about earlier, family. We have to set the expectation for greatness, and then we kind of like melt into it. Versus, oh man, I gotta wake up tomorrow and go to work. My thought process is, yeah, I'm finna go get this bread. I'm finna go be able to do this so I can do this. We finna go see the math teacher. We finna go do this. I'm finna get this LLC. Like, I see it as a motivating force versus, oh man, it's another day that we down here. Because then you start facilitating that frequency. And then eventually those beings who feed off of that frequency, they always surrounding you and they whispering right there at you, you should just do this then. You know you can't do that. This is how this depression thing starts. And the master teacher's breaking down some pivotal points, basically for mental clarity and self-help, right? Any questions right now, family? Any concerns? We got like 5 minutes left in this class. All right, that's what's up. All right, so we go on. Let's see. And that longing is in all of you. But in some of you, that longing is a torment. Or a torrent, rushing with might in the sea, carrying the secrets of the hillsides and the songs of the forest. And in others, it is a flat stream that loosens itself in angles and bends and lingers before it reaches the shore. But let not him who longs much say to him long little, wherefore are you slow and halting? For the truly benevolent ask not the naked, where is your garment? So getting from that, I was experiencing this today, family, right? I'll share a personal note with you, right? One of I have two vehicles. Well, one vehicle was in an accident and I wasn't even there. So that vehicle has been repaired. It's getting repaired. It's been taking like 2 or 3 months. Wasn't my fault, wasn't there, right? I'm paying out the yin yang. The other vehicle was my hoopty. My hoopty is a real hoopty. I think I had to experience the feeling of riding the hoopty, feeling the same way that I feel in the better car that I've had. I think once we can not worry about the outside extremities of what we wear and what we drive or how we live or where we live, if we can move through life feeling like we're wealthy, feeling like we're successful, feeling like we're on our spiritual path and taking instances to make that shit happen, then there's nothing really that they can throw at us to get us off. Like if you feel wealthy, you attract wealth. If you feel like you're focused, you attract more focus. So out of that personal experience, y'all, I'm sharing it with y'all. That's what I've been getting from the last 90 days. I'm gonna get you guys to start exercising that concept. Like whatever is thrown at you, as hard or as impossible as it might seem, right? Note that there's a pendulum, like Brother Nev talked about. It swings from right to left. It swings from up to down. It swings from good to not so good. We got to recognize the dance and start dancing to the music, family. That's what I'm saying right now. So this is the Holy Topic class, family. I want to thank everyone for tuning in right now. This is the House of Who. You know how we do. I'm your teacher for this evening, Brother Chris Love. And we're going to get Brother Nev to take us out with the all affirmation and the prayer of the Aiders. All right, who everyone, and thank you for joining in tonight.
Abdul Kur Bazon Tap Attack Madana Ben Mahu Hadus Aishu Pinakalu. Anuki Fiana Aishu Shukalu Wakola Shukalu. Naata Kuna Fikalu. Anuki Feragun Shukalu Wakalu Kala Feragunshu. Anuki Wahid Katalu Wakalu Kalu Wahid Man. Nukaiki Lu Anji Kama Feragun Shukalu Wahu Kama Faidu. Aiki lua hueno kudik nuka fili fikalu. Kemeta wuka makafazi kaluni amidu fikalu. Anuki kaba hawa kalu kalu na kalu yaku nukeki kalu bamu nukabi. Again, all prayers, deeds, and deeds for the who, divine love and all. I am in the love of all, and all love is me. We are all in all. I am a part of all, and all is a part of me. I am one with all, and all is one with me. I can succeed as a part of all, as well as an individual. I can be all I wish in all, as long as I wish to stay in all. I am never alone. All is I am. All can I can. All does I do. Begin all prayers and thinking by using divine love in the all. Prayer of the aiders, propagators of peace, O Heavenly One, the Most High, who is the sustainer of all the worlds. We do accept the duty you laying on us to clean up the filth made by the disagreeable ones and their hosts and us and many fools. O my sustainer, we beseech you to keep your hand over us to control the strings and the courses of our lives. Our sustainer, and if we do wrong, please show thy divine blessings and forgiveness on us. You are the only one can rise as true fathers of the news bearers, and in thy name we carry on an anthem for all who are.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you everyone for tuning into the house. Have a peaceful night. Hua.
You feel shit.
You feel shit.